Hello everyone, my name is Jamell Henderson and welcome back to the Vanguard. It's so good to have you all here. I'm really glad that you are tuning in and you're spreading the word and you're telling people about this amazing show. As I said before, my name is Jamell Henderson and I am here to not only be your host, but to be your teacher, guide, and educator into not only giving you the tools you need to not only be an active participant in our democracy, but to be fully civically engaged as you become a strong stakeholder and a powerful person in your respective communities. So over the past few episodes, we talked about the importance of participating in democracy, understanding the power of our vote. We also introduced the executive, legislative, and judicial branch of government on the federal level. And so now we're going to take it down to the state level. So as I mentioned before, all politics come down to the home. And so we already covered the entire landscape of the United States. And now we're going to zoom it on into the state level. And the state level of government is a little bit different than on the federal level of government. So let's take a look at, on our state level here in the state of New York, the role of the governor. Now remember, all of this information that I'm saying, you can find this on the respective state websites, okay? So let's begin to look at Governor of New York. Now, the duties of the governor shall be to be the commander-in-chief of the military and naval forces of the state. So just like the federal government has Army, Navy, so on and so forth, the state has state military branches as well. We have our state guard, we have our state officers, our state troopers. We also have our National Guard that's on the state level. We have our state law enforcement officers that protects our state on a daily basis. The governor also has the power to convene the legislature or the Senate only on extraordinary occasions. So that means he's responsible. He can go in and step in to cover the legislature on the Senate level in special circumstances. The governor also, at extraordinary sessions convened pursuant to the divisions of this section, shall be acted upon, except such as the governor may recommend for consideration. The governor shall communicate by message to the legislature at every session the condition of the state and recommend such matters to it as he or she shall judge expedient. What's that known as the State of the State address. That happens at the beginning of each year, where the state comes together and the governor issues his State of the State address to show the health and vitality, performance, and what the state should do moving forward in terms of instructing its state legislatures to provide policies to help the government move forward. The governor shall expedite all such measures as may be resolved upon by the legislature and shall take care that the laws are faithfully executed. So what does that mean? If the House and if the Assembly and the Senate passes laws, it's not only his job to sign them into law, but to make sure that they're done faithfully. I mean, we could have a whole nother conversation about that, but we know, but that's the duties and the laws within the New York State Constitution. The governor shall receive for his or her services an annual salary to be fixed by joint resolution of the Senate and the Assembly, which means how they get paid, and there shall be provided for his or her use a suitable and furnished executive residence. That means the governor has his mansion in Albany where he resides, okay? What else can the governor do? The governor has the power to grant reprieves, commutation, and pardons after conviction. So if you notice in some of the movies, that infamous red phone before someone is unfortunately on death row or getting ready to receive the death penalty, the governor makes that final call. Usually that tends to happen. Or if someone who has done something wrong on the state level and the governor sees based on their record that he or she has done an exceptional job, he can pardon their crimes and give them a full, fresh start. Every bill which shall have passed the Senate and Assembly shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the governor. If the governor approve, he or she shall sign it. But if not, he or she shall return it with his or her objections to the House in which it shall have originated, which shall enter objections at large on the journal and proceed to reconsider it. So what does that mean? Let's say the Senate passes a bill and the governor doesn't like it. he can reject that bill with his or her considerations and see how the Senate will proceed forward with such recommendation, whether they accept it or not. Term. We are one in 4 states of the United States of America that has unlimited 4-year terms. That means the governor, as long as he or she keeps getting elected, can run for life. Yes, we're one of the 4 that can do that. Then we look at the duties of the lieutenant governor, kind of similar to vice president, but on a state level. In the case of a removal of the governor from office, his or her death or resignation, the lieutenant governor shall become governor for the remainder of the term. In case the governor-elect shall decline to serve or shall die, the lieutenant governor-elect shall become the governor for the full term. And in case the governor is impeached, is absent from the state, or otherwise unable to discharge their duties, the lieutenant governor shall act as governor until the inability shall cease or that the term of the governor shall expire. So pretty much they step in any event that the governor is no longer able to serve his or her duty. So now, they also serve as the president of the state senate as well, right? And so who is our governor of the state of New York? We have Mr. Andrew Cuomo, who is the 56th governor of the state of New York. And our lieutenant governor is Kathleen Hochul, who is the 77th lieutenant governor of the state of New York. So those are the leaders on our executive level of government, on the state level, okay? So I hope everyone understands that. So now we look at the state controller. The state controller is pretty much, if some may call that person the money person. This is the person who audits all vouchers before payment and all official accounts. They audit the accrual and collection of revenues and receipts provided by the state and operations of the state. And they provide methods of accounting as necessary for the performance of ongoing duties of the state. So pretty much they are able to analyze and govern how money is being spent and how the money is being used to operate, state agencies to help the state government move forward. The state controller also has 4-year terms, and they are also able to be elected up to 8 years. And then our current state controller is Mr. Thomas DiNapoli, who is the 54th controller of the state of New York. Now, every office that I've said thus far within the state of New York, from our senators to our governor, our lieutenant governor, as well as our state controller, they all have New York City offices as well. So they are required by law to not only be at their respected state offices, but they also have to be in their city offices as well. Why? Well, because the city of New York plays a major role in the funding and operations of the state. And one cannot survive without the other. So there's this upstate, downstate, kind of love-hate type of relationship. But at the end of the day, we're one New York. But in terms of our state officials, there are 2 locations for offices, one here in New York City and then in the respective state. So now we have our New York State Attorney General. This is the law enforcement officer. They supervise the accounts of any political subdivision of the state. Their powers and duties pertaining to or connected with the assessment and taxation of real estate, including determination of ratios, which the assessed valuation of taxable real property bears to the full valuation thereof, but not including any of those powers reserved to officers of a county, city, town, or village. Okay, so pretty much they analyze all of the taxations of real estate that belongs within the provinces of the state of New York. The legislature shall assign him or her no administrative duties, excepting such as may be incidental to the performance of these functions, any other provision of this Constitution to the contrary notwithstanding. So that means they're focusing on making sure that every state agency or every organization, every business that is doing business within the state of New York are following the laws of the New York State Constitution. Their terms, they also have 4-year terms as well. And our current New York State Attorney General, which I'm very, very proud of, is none other than Tish James of Brooklyn, New York. And I'm very happy to know that she is our New York State Attorney General. So now we looked at the judicial branch within the state of New York, which is considered the Attorney General, as well as our state court judges and court systems. But now let's look at the legislative branches within the state. We have the New York State Senate, and we have the New York State Assembly. So the duties of the New York State Senate, according to the New York State Constitution, is to elect a temporary president, which is a 2-year term of the Senate. They also propose laws, they appropriate funds for the operation of state government and its agencies, and provide aid to local governments as well. They can confirm appointments of non-elected state officials and judges, and the promotion of the public welfare, including that of the state's indigent, mentally ill, and unemployed, and the correction, clarification, amendment, or repeal of laws that are outdated and or confusing. Let's take a pause for a moment for there. This is listed in the state's constitution in terms of the roles of the New York State Senate. Okay? They propose laws, they amend laws, they appropriate funds, but they also promote the public welfare to make sure that everyone is taken care of, right? So think about that. Think about it within our city or within your respected city within the state of New York. Is that really happening? And if not, then that's something we have to pay attention to. Then if we look at who, let's say we're looking at my neighborhood in terms of who my state senator is. Again, you can find out who your state senator is at newyorkstatesenate.gov, nysenate.gov. But my current state senator is none other than the Honorable Velmanette Montgomery of the 25th Senatorial District. The committees that she serves on is Children and Families as the ranking member. She serves on Agriculture, Health, Rules, Crime Victims, Crime and Correction, New York State Conference of Black Senators, Finance, Education, and Libraries. So some of these committees are very, very important to me. So if I want to know what's going on, I can look to her and as well as those committees to see what issues or items they are presenting in terms of the welfare in those respective committees. Now, if we look at the Assembly side, it's a little bit different as well. They also propose laws, but they also override a governor's veto with compromise, if necessary, by the Senate. Okay, and they also appropriate funds for the operation of state government and its agencies. Now, the state of New York is the 3rd largest budget in the United States of America, followed by the state of California and the United States government itself. But we have our operating budget is over $182 billion. And the Assembly, the Senate, and the governor have responsibility to make sure that it is properly being used for the betterment of the public welfare, which again, I'm giving this to you all so you can know and understand that this is what they're supposed to be doing, right? And so my current Assemblywoman, based off of the information provided by my address, you can find out who your local Assemblywoman is too by newyorkassembly.gov. And my Assemblywoman is none other than the Honorable Tremaine Wright of the 56th Assembly District, okay? And so those covers the different levels on the state branches of government, okay? The governor, the lieutenant governor, state controller, our attorney general, and then our New York State senators and our New York State Assembly persons, all right? They play a crucial role in terms of how policies impact us because since they are closer to home, the impact is going to be much more greater, right? A great example of that was most recently when the state of New York, with consistent push from people like you and I, passed the universal rent control laws. That would not have happened if the people did not know who their stakeholders were, as well as holding the feet under the fire because they're supposed to be representing us. And because of the hard work that the people have done in making sure that their elected officials were listening to them and hearing what they said, we have passed an historic major series of bills that will now forever help the people who are trying to, live in their apartments at affordable prices. So these are just some of the instances of how government works on the state level. We haven't covered state agencies or anything like of that sort yet, because it's very important that we cover the basics. And so if you have any questions, or you want to know a little bit more, or you have some confusion or not understanding about how government works on the state level, of course, please send me your comments, suggestions, and questions, and I'll be more than glad to answer them. But I just want you to know that this is something that is very crucial and critical, and we all must pay attention, because it impacts our daily lives. And not only does it impact our daily lives right now, it definitely impacts the future of our country and our state. So I hope today's segment was very, very helpful. I hope it was very informative. And again, this is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And there will be more to come as we look towards the city level, as well as the borough levels, and even more of the local appointments and offices that people like you and I have the honor of serving. So I always like to say that change begins with one, therefore it begins with me. And so I am aiming to be that spark to ignite change for all of you, and I hope that my spark has ignited something in you to not only know more about how our government works, but that you too become an active participant in making sure that your voice is heard and representing your community. My name is Jamell Henderson, and I thank you all for tuning into the Vanguard. We'll see you around next time. Have a good day. Hello everyone, this is Jamell Henderson, and thank you for tuning into the Vanguard. If you want to know more information, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Young Boss Media TV.